Hello, hello, and welcome back to What We Pod in the Shadows, where we're going back and watching what we do in the shadows over from the very beginning. I'm Raven.
And I'm Alison.
Today's episode we're going to be discussing is called Werewolf Feud, and we meet, of course, some werewolves.
You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Laszlo likes topiary sculpture and has some topiaries that look like women's private parts, including his mother's, which is where he smells werewolf pee. This seems to be kind of like winter right now or something.
It might be.
It's like, I think they all had like coats on and stuff, but I don't know if that really matters, but
Yeah.
I'm just thinking the topiaries in the wintertime. But anyway, he goes inside and unearths a nasty looking werewolf trap. And I'm not sure, at some point we see Sean, the neighbor, and I feel like that's the first time we've seen him.
I think maybe so, unless, there was something last episode.
So it's more like they don't really have a close-up relationship. They just kind of yell at each other, and then Laszlo will, like, hypnotize him, like, this, you didn't see what you just saw type of thing.
Yeah.
Colin reveals he's a morning person and likes to bother Nandor in his coffin. And it's also the best time to suck energy from people before they become aggravated with the day. So he goes to work and he goes from cubicle to cubicle feeding. And I was wondering, what is his actual job? Does he even work? Because most of the time we just see him talking to people, and
Yeah.
I'm not really sure he ever sits at his desk.
Yeah, does he just lurk and feed off of people, and then people just kind of assume, oh, he works here, he's around?
I mean, I think he does work there, but I'm just not sure how much work he actually gets done.
Yeah. Some of the boring stuff he does to people, there's this guy named Arnie, and he has a debate with him about Q-tips. And while he's debating with Arnie, he notices a new person at work who is played by Vanessa Bayer. He goes to talk to her, and she basically kind of shits on herself to get pity and trauma dumps on him about her dead mother. Colin is creeped out by her because he couldn't steal any energy from her. Just constant talking bad about herself, basically, is what I meant to say. Nadja shows the crew her and Laszlo's crypt, which is filled with taxidermy animals, including an owl that once scratched her, and an armadillo, which she says would have looked like her and Laszlo's child if they'd had any children. And she hears howling coming from the lawn. She realizes it's a werewolf and gets Nandor and Guillermo. The werewolf is stuck in Laszlo's trap on the lawn, and they hypnotize him to sleep and take him inside the house. Guillermo questions if it's safe to have the werewolf in the house because it might hurt him, and Nandor says it probably will hurt him. Which was so mean. There is a truce between the werewolf and vampire communities the last few decades that stops werewolves and vampires from hurting each other. But Nandor worries they may have broken the truce by harming a werewolf. The werewolf wakes up and, thinking that they're normal humans, tries to play it off, but Nadja was like, no, we know you're a big stinky werewolf. The werewolf is like his werewolf brethren and sisterin will be pissed to hear that they hurt his leg with the bear trap, but then he jumps out of the window and hurts his other leg in the process.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because he kept saying, I'm gonna heal really fast, but then he's limping and ow, ow, you guys are gonna be in trouble because I have super healing. Yes, they did set a werewolf trap, but anything could have got trapped in it. It was on their property. So he would have to explain why he was, in their backyard or whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that counts as trespassing if you go in someone's garden and pee all over their topiaries.
Colin tries to annoy or bore people at work, but finds them already drained by Evie, who he deduces is an emotional vampire. So the Evie emotional vampire. She feeds off of pity. They both follow poor co-worker Biff into the bathroom and put him into a coma. Laszlo digs out 3 silver bullets with some tongs, but then he confesses that he doesn't have a gun with which to shoot them with, so it's not going to be helpful. Did I say tongs? Tongs? I meant tongs. He dug them out with some tongs, because they can't touch silver.
Yeah.
The vamps go outside and find the werewolf group peeing all over the lawn and arguing amongst themselves. The two groups start fighting and ruin the bunny topiary. When Nandor gets in the middle and reminds them they will attract too much human attention, they all head inside and talk about following protocols.
So Nandor finds documents from 1993 explaining what they must do if the truce is broken. And it basically states that if a group of werewolves and vampires have a beef, that's what it says in the document, mind you, because it's from the 90s. The two groups shall not fight each other, but instead will elect the strongest among them from each group to fight each other one-on-one on neutral ground. After work, Colin and Evie have a psychic face-off, yelling boring facts and tragic life events at one another as they float into the air. They collapse on the ground, but come to a truce of their own and agree to be hunting partners and also to start dating. So then we go back to the other vampires. Nandor says tonight is a good night to die, but not for him. The werewolves show up late to the fight and show off their champion, a very big, tall dude named Toby, which intimidates Nandor, who the vampires have chosen as their champion. Now Jim makes fun of him for being named Toby, and Laszlo scolds him for ruining the sculpture of his mother's vulva from his garden. Colin and Evie start draining people together by combining their respective boring and pitiful natures.
Yeah, they go out to eat together and kind of like traumatize the waiter, and he's just like, aren't you gonna eat? And they're like, we're already feeding.
Yeah.
I was just gonna go back to the werewolf fight. Like, Nadja had to ask if they were Indian, I guess because of Twilight, like they're Native Americans, and then they all had to say their ethnicities, which they were all, I think there was one Native American in there, but there was like an actual Indian from India, and there was like an African American. I mean, it was like everything out of her mouth about them, she just like made them mad. And then like the girl werewolf she's always calling sluts, she calls them scum and mutts. So it's like she's not actually gonna be the one fighting, but she just is like upping their anger.
Yeah, she's trash talking quite a lot for someone who's not actually going to be fighting.
So then Toby transforms and takes off his clothes, and Nandor's like alarmed. He's like, is this supposed to be a naked fight? The vamps contemplate just flying away, but Guillermo can't. They must choose weapons, and Toby chooses his teeth and claws, while Nandor wisely chooses a squeaky bone toy and chucks it off the side of the building. They're on an abandoned Circuit City, by the way. Toby follows the squeaky toy over the side and falls, but is still alive, only very badly injured, but he will heal quickly. The vamps have won and fly away, leaving Guillermo to carry all of the weapons home.
I think that's like the cleverest thing I've ever seen Nandor do.
Yeah. I think he picked it up and they were like, Nandor, no. But he like immediately knew to like chuck it off the building.
Yeah.
So it was like perfect.
Yeah. So then the werewolves go and they look after Toby, and they're basically just like, it's okay, buddy. You'll heal soon enough. And Guillermo has to, as Guillermo's like walking away, they ask him if they can keep the squeaky toy, even though it caused such chaos. Colin says dating Evie is never dull because she faints often and has car troubles. She tells many tall tales of woe about her and her cat, has had 6 sets of grandparents die since they've met, but when she starts using her emotional draining abilities to demonize Colin to their co-workers, he decides to break up with her. Evie threatens to kill herself if Colin leaves her, but was just trying to use him one last time to drain energy from the humans around them. And that's the end of my notes.
Oh, well, there was a part. And Laszlo works on his mother's hoo-ha topiary, which is in tip-top shape once more.
So weird.
It's supposed to be like all the women that he loved, he had topiaries of their private parts, which is a little bizarre.
Yeah, very weird tribute.
So, I mean, there was kind of like a lot going on. You know, we had the beef with the werewolves, and then Colin having this relationship with Evie, which probably they could have had separate episodes on each topic and explored a little more. I do feel like the werewolves started the feud by, you know, peeing on their property in the first place. But like with the trap, Laszlo didn't admit he was the one that did it, so I don't really understand why. Like,
Yeah.
I understand him kind of putting the trap out because, like, you know, like if you had, I mean, some people are really anal about their yards, but also
Right.
if you spend a lot of time, you know, like if you had bonsai trees or something, they're expensive. Like, you don't want like a dog or like some sort of other animal coming and tearing it up. So you would put a trap out.
Yeah.
I get, you know, they're people also, the werewolves. So like there is kind of a weird thing with like something could die in a trap like that.
Yeah. It's not exactly like the least harmful way to try to catch. I do have like such a soft spot though for like media where the werewolves in their human forms still kind of act like dogs a little bit. Like they
Oh.
still have like dog-like tendencies and habits. I love that so much.
I don't know if any of their stuff was like cute though. It was just them like pissing on everything.
Yeah, it was mostly like them peeing on things, but then with like the squeaky toy at the end.
Yeah. I think they all just like envied the squeaky toy. That's why they wanted to keep it because they would like to play with the squeaky toy.
Yeah.
And then the thing with Colin and Evie, I mean, that was like a very clever storyline too.
I just enjoy very much the literal energy / emotional vampires. I think it's funny that they decided, what if they were actual creatures?
Yeah, I do like the addition of Colin. I feel like after a while they don't really show his powers though so much, like him using them. And I guess they don't really drink on people so much anymore either.
Yeah. I don't see that too often.
I feel like the guy that he was talking to about the Q-tips, he sort of looked like he could almost be an energy vampire himself. Like he would be the type that would talk about really boring stuff too.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I mean, they do both work together still, so I'm not sure if they ever show Evie again or like if I feel like that nobody would get any work done with the two of them there because they'll just be like zapped of energy. And I don't know if, you know, whoever gets to work first gets to zap all the energy of the coworkers. So like for their vampire purposes, it's probably best they both don't work there.
Right.
So I'm not sure if we see Colin changing jobs or like if Evie changes jobs, but I feel like that needs to occur too.
It's like, I don't know, I guess I just thought like, you know, some of the stuff in the writing was clever and
yeah, I think this was a very like tight action filled episode with a lot of stuff happening and it was all like clever and fun and interesting. I hate to be like telling the future, but I'm not sure, do we see the werewolves again either?
Right? I'm not sure. I am blanking. I feel like maybe, but I could be mixing it up with the movie because I swear there were werewolves in that too, and they got in a fight then maybe as well.
I think like both of these groups, the other emotional energy type vampires and then also werewolves could be definitely revisited again because they did so much with it here. Like I would like to see more anyway.
Yeah.
But I can't remember. Like we've already watched this show once before, but it's, you know, been a while, so I can't totally remember what all happened.
Yeah, it's been like 5.5, 6 years since the season aired, so yeah, hard to remember if you don't like rewatch stuff. So yeah, I think that wraps up our discussion for this week. Our next episode we're going to talk about is called Manhattan Nightclub. So tune in next week to hear about that. If you've been enjoying the podcast and if you haven't already, it would be super cool if you could follow or subscribe and leave us a review. We'd love to get some feedback. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel instead of, say, Apple Podcasts or Spotify or what have you, like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, etc. That would be super, super cool.
We're watching What We Do in the Shadows on Hulu, so you can watch the episode before our episode comes out, so you're ready to listen.
And so you don't get spoiled by us.
Yes. And we have another podcast, Mojo Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. And we're discussing the original Powerpuff Girls and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. We're kind of alternating seasons.
Yeah.
So right now we're on the Powerpuff Girls, but we will be switching back to JoJo shortly.
Yeah, I think we have one more episode, it'll be one more episode of the podcast, but technically 2 more episodes that we'll be watching because they put them together. And then we'll be switching back to JoJo, and we're going to be talking about first half of part 3, which is called Stardust Crusaders.
So check us out on there, and for both podcasts, if you can push all the buttons so we can hopefully be pushed out to more people.
Yeah, you want to push some buttons. You want. So until next time, remember, you're dead and out of this world. Goodbye.
Goodbye.